start this by setting up a hypothetical situation. Suppose you and I work together, and suppose I found out something extremely important that I have to tell you. Just now, I got word from our boss, the key decision maker, that you and I have to call in and take part in an emergency phone conference. That call is supposed to happen tonight at 8 p.m. So right now, it's 4:30 p.m. on Friday. If either of us miss that call, Monday morning is not going to be pretty. Now, I'm supposed to confirm that you will be on that call without fail. So here's my question. Should I meet with you personally so I can make absolutely sure that we speak about this together in real time? And so that I know you know you're supposed to be on that call? Or should I leave a written note for you? By the way, that note would be scrawled in my rushed handwriting on a tiny piece of paper that I tuck into a big pile of other papers that I leave stacked on your desk at the end of the day. Which of those two is the best option? If you chose the first option, a personal meeting, over the second option, a scrawled note, if you chose voice to voice and face to face over that little hidden piece of paper, then you already understand the core principle of communication that we're covering here. Two-way is better than one-way. Now that's a lesson that takes just a second to repeat, but it may take a lifetime to put into practice. Why? Because one-way communication seems so easy. Actually, though, it usually doesn't count as communication at all. If you've ever been involved in a meeting where someone was talking, but no one else in the room was really listening, you know what I'm getting at here. At work, we face lots of situations where it's absolutely critical that a message get through to the other person, be internalized by that person, be acted upon by that person. In fact, we face dozens or even hundreds of those situations every day. And in all those situations, a pattern of authentic two-way communication is going to be much, much more effective than the one-way style. The problem is, there are lots of times when we slip into a one-way mode without even realizing it. And guess what? People barely communicate when they're in one-way mode. The reason we need to change this pattern is pretty simple. One-way communication is a whole lot more expensive than two-way. Let me show you why. Let's say 8 o'clock rolls around and the conference call starts. I'm on the call. You're not. Not only is there a big problem for you because you're not taking part in a call that you should be on, there's now a problem between you and me that we've got to sort through. Because I was supposed to get you the information that you needed. And I didn't do that in a way that was useful to you. So the next time you meet the boss, there's cleanup work to do. And the next time you and I meet, there's cleanup work to do. It costs us far too much in terms of time, resources, and attention to do all that cleanup. I mean, who's got time for that? There are a whole lot of different ways that people can slip into one-way mode, even when they think they're in two-way mode. Here's how it happens. Same situation, same Friday afternoon, same conference call coming up, same obligation on my part to get you the information you need to be on the call at 8 o'clock. So, suppose I show up at your desk at 4:30. You're glancing at your watch. You mentioned to me that you promised the folks at home that you would be leaving work right at 5. You still got a lot of things on your desk that you still have to get done. But I don't notice any of that because I'm not really paying attention to you. So I drop that big stack of papers on your desk and then I start telling you all about my plans for the weekend. Plans that you don't really want to hear. Then 5 minutes later, when I've talked myself out, I walk away and as I go I say, hey, I left you a note about a conference call. Now, I may have thought I was communicating with you, but I really wasn't. I slipped into one-way communication. You're not listening. You're not responding. I got no confirmation from you, and I should have noticed that. Or for instance, it's later that night, and just to be on the safe side, I send you a text message or an email that says, "Talk to you at 8." And then I never check back to see whether you knew what the heck I meant. That too is an example of me slipping into one-way mode. That's the digital trap. By the way, text messages and emails are very, very common starting points for one-way exchanges that we think are two-way communication, but aren't. Just look at all the things that can go wrong here. For one thing, you may not like checking for text messages and emails as much as I do. You may even have chosen to turn everything off. But I'm assuming that you're checking your messages regularly. Wrong. Or you may be in a place where you have no way to access your email or your texts. As we all know, there are plenty of those places, and we often find ourselves stuck in them. Or you may simply misinterpret the message. Remember what it said. Talk to you at 8. Reading that, you may think that I mean I'm going to call you for some reason at 8 o'clock. Again, wrong. All of those potential problems are out there. And guess what? They're all coming from me, not you. Because I slipped into one-way mode without even realizing it. One of the biggest obstacles to effective two-way communication is something that we call armor. Now, there's a funny thing about armor. We don't always realize that we're putting it on. We get ready for battle, but we don't always know that that's what we're doing. How's that possible? Well, sometimes we pick up signals from the other person. Signals that make us think we're about to come under attack. Can you guess what we do when we pick up those signals? You got it. We put on the armor. We get ready to protect ourselves. Why? Because we've got evidence programmed deep in our nervous system. Evidence that we're about to be hit with something unpleasant. And whenever we see that evidence, we want to protect ourselves, to keep it from happening again. In the workplace, this kind of evidence usually connects to some past experience of blame or fault finding. Let me show you how it might work. Suppose I'm your boss, and suppose I have established a pattern of blaming you for certain kinds of mistakes. These might be mistakes where you miss certain kinds of details. Or maybe you overlook opportunities that seem obvious to me. Whatever it is you've missed, I have a habit of getting on your case for it. And that's not a pleasant experience for you. Now, suppose you and I meet for a one-on-one session every Monday morning. Let's say we've been doing that for a few months. And during all those Monday morning meetings, I have established the pattern of saying this phrase to you. Let's take a closer look at this. Now, in your nervous system, you've linked up hearing me say that phrase to mean one thing. Attack is imminent. To you, the phrase, let's take a closer look at this, is what I say right before I blame you for something that I think you've missed. So what happens? The moment you hear it, you put on your armor. This is not armor you can see, but you put it on. You start getting ready to respond to the attack that your central nervous system knows is about to happen. Now, when you put on your armor to prepare for a conflict like that, which is something you do automatically without any conscious thought at all, two interesting things happen. First, your body undergoes a physical change that's connected to the so-called fight or flight response that is deeply woven into us. Your body gets ready to either run away as fast as possible or confront your attacker physically. But there's a problem. Neither of these options is a really good choice for handling your meeting with me. So you have to stifle that fight or flight instinct which is a real stress on your physical system. Now, that fight or flight response is not bad. It's what has helped humans to survive and thrive for all of the years we've been on this planet. But it's not conducive to effective two-way communication in the workplace. And stifling the instinct tires your body out pretty quickly. In fact, if you've ever come out of a tough meeting feeling exhausted and wondered how you could feel so tired when all you were doing was sitting in a chair and talking to someone, changing this fight or flight syndrome might be something to consider. So that's the first thing that happens when you hear me say, let's take a closer look at this. Your body changes. The second thing that happens is once your body gets ready for fight or flight, your mind shuts down. It is literally incapable of taking in and processing new information that doesn't relate directly to overcoming the threat it has identified. Your brain is too busy processing potential threats and trying to keep you safe for it to do anything else. That means you can't listen to what I, your boss, am now telling you. You can't internalize what I say either. And you certainly can't take constructive action on it. I may imagine that I'm communicating with you right now. But the minute I said those magic words, let's take a closer look at this, I slipped into one-way mode without knowing it. I'm talking, but I might as well be talking to myself. I am like a guy on a desert island, writing a message, stuffing that message into a bottle, and heaving it into the sea. If anything of what I am saying actually gets through to you, that will be against very, very long odds. Now, here's the interesting part. I probably don't think I did anything to disrupt our communication. But the reality is I did. I pushed your button. I got you to put on your armor. And I didn't even realize that I did it. Because I don't know what your buttons are. Now, in case you're wondering, this phenomenon does go both ways. You push your boss's buttons too, without even realizing that that's what you're doing. I guarantee it. The moral of all of this is, if we don't take the time to learn what each other's buttons are, if we don't take the time to learn how to avoid pushing those buttons, then we will spend most of our time in one-way mode. We won't really be engaging in two-way communication at all. That's not good for anyone. Wouldn't it be nice if people came with owner's manuals? Wouldn't it be nice if you had a quick reference guide you could use whenever something felt a little funny in the relationship with your boss? Wouldn't it be nice if you had a simplified, easy-to-use guide that could help you and your boss get things back on track with little or no fuss? Well, guess what? That's what we're going to give you this month. A simplified user's manual. For all those times when things start to feel a little funny between you and your boss. And if you're like most of the direct reports we work with, you have experienced your share of those uncomfortable moments. Now, there are 11 major ways that direct reports have told us that things can start to feel uncomfortable when they're interacting with the boss. All 11 are behaviors that the key decision maker engages in. And all 11 bring about the same result, a feeling that there is a lack of mutual respect. Mutual respect is the foundation of any aligned relationship between the key decision maker and the direct report. But the reality is that it is often missing or incomplete. And that's why things may sometimes feel just a little off, a little strained between you and your boss. That's the feeling of the two of you moving further and further out of alignment. If there is no mutual respect, there can be no aligned relationship. It's that simple. Unfortunately, there are certain very common destructive behaviors that lead to a decrease in mutual respect between a key decision maker and a direct report. And this is a serious problem. Why? Because if those behavior problems aren't addressed constructively, communication will suffer. Problem-solving efforts will become less and less effective, and the relationship will become progressively more stressful and unproductive. This is the downward spiral of the relationship without mutual respect. What's interesting here is that the overt signs of disrespect are almost always one way, from key decision maker to direct report. If the obvious signs of disrespect went the other way, from the direct report to the key decision maker, the direct report wouldn't have a job for very long. There are 11 classic destructive behaviors that direct reports experience from the key decision maker. The first is responding poorly to stress. This means overreacting when something goes wrong. Next, mood swings. This destructive behavior puts you at the receiving end of lots of highs and lows. Third, see me first. Key decision makers who do this make it difficult or impossible to make decisions on your own. Fourth, taking the credit. This means acting like your idea is the boss's idea. Fifth, constant complaining. Everybody complains sometime, but some key decision makers make this a way of life. Sixth, meddling. This means being in the middle of everything all the time and coming across as a know-it-all. Seventh, lack of accountability. This key decision maker doesn't want to take responsibility and plays the blame game. Eighth, duplicity. In this scenario, the key decision maker says one thing to your face and another negative thing when you're not around. Ninth, bullying. This key decision maker makes a habit of intimidating with aggressive behavior. 10th, second guessing. Here, the key decision maker loves to play Monday morning quarterback. And finally, 11th, micromanaging. This key decision maker will take all the necessary steps to ensure that everything is carried out precisely to his or her specifications. First time, last time, and every time. The reason a direct report does not exhibit these same 11 actions with his key decision maker is that the direct report has learned to use a brake on destructive behaviors during interactions with the key decision maker. What's interesting, though, is that many direct reports engage in one or more of these very same types of behaviors with the employees who report to them. Assuming good intent totally changes the nature of the conversation. We had one direct report who thought her CEO key decision maker was always questioning her intelligence and her intentions by his comments. This never failed to put her in a really bad mood a couple of times each week. After working with us, she applied this principle of assuming good intent and started responding back positively and enthusiastically in this circumstance whenever it happened. Guess what? The problem totally disappeared. She actually started getting back reinforcement and positivity from the key decision maker in return. As a result, she and her key decision maker are now in alignment, and this is no longer an issue. The most important thing for a direct report to understand about the destructive interpersonal behaviors you'll learn how to deal with this month is most of them are accidental. They are usually not intended as gestures of disrespect. In fact, many of the key decision makers we work with are deeply surprised to learn that their actions lead to these feelings of disrespect. Very often, the direct report experiences a feeling of intense disrespect, without the key decision maker ever intending to send a disrespectful message, and vice versa. That's how it works. Someone perceives an unintentional signal of disrespect, internalizes it, and that repetitive pattern of lower and lower quality communication really begins to take hold. So what you need to understand as you begin this month is that most key decision makers really do engage in these behaviors without realizing that's what they're doing. Now, the 11 behaviors you'll learn about this month can literally destroy relationships and companies. And the truth is, your key decision maker probably needs a little tactful, persistent help from you when it comes to turning those behaviors around. Productive collaboration between key decision makers and direct reports just plain doesn't happen unless these behaviors are changed. And the truth is, most key decision makers are not all that good at changing them on their own. So let me share the first and most important chapter of your Simplified User's Manual. The one principle that will always help you when you are trying to deal with behaviors that make you feel like you have just been disrespected. You have to assume good intent. If your key decision maker displays any of the 11 behaviors your trainer will share with you this month, your first job as a high-performing direct report is to remind yourself that the behavior that bothers you is probably viewed as benign by your key decision maker, regardless of whether or not it appears hostile to you. If you assume good intent on the part of the key decision maker, you will find it much, much easier to turn the pattern around. So remember, many of the behaviors you'll learn about this month are the result of simple uncertainty or lack of experience. As you work together to find better ways to support mutual respect in your relationship, be patient, be tactful, and be persistent. I'll see you next month. And remember, alignment is a way of life.